Hello, this is Paul from We Love Games. I was coming in to do my video review of episode 4 of the Wheel of Time, the Dragon Reborn. So I'm going to try to keep things a little more concise. This will be a spoiler-filled review, though, for everything from the books that I gathered and gleaned from the episode and what they're trying to foreshadow potentially. So please watch at your own risk. This is not a spoiler-free hot take or anything. This is my recap and review with full spoilers from the books from the perspective of someone that has read them multiple times. If you like my content, please feel free to subscribe, like, and all that other good stuff when it comes to content creator stuff. And also you can catch me on Twitch pretty much once a day during the weekdays from about 11 to 2 p.m. on Eastern Time. So with all that out of the way, let's move into the overall review. I'm going to structure it from area of importance down, and then I'll go over my favorite scene at the very end. So, first bit, we get the cold open with Logan, and we get pretty much an extended version, extended about to maybe 5 to 6 minutes of Logan's initial introduction as we've gotten in the spoilers and the trailers. So what we know is that Logan he's in Gildan. He is apparently moving towards, very slowly, 2 guards and the king of Gildan. And the king breaks away, the 2 guards stop to try to hold off Logan, and Logan easily surpasses them. The king then pulls out a dagger, which is what we saw in the trailer, trying to stab Logan, and gets stopped by Logan with the power. Logan then gets spoken to by the power, which is extremely creepy, and a very good interpretation of madness. And Logan blatantly tells the king that he is not interested in the crown, he's not interested in the overall kingdom of Gildan. He's interested in being Dragon Reborn and uniting the world beneath him, and uniting him beneath one banner, which is very interesting. So what happens is the king appears to be held down by Logan, and it looks like Logan is prepared to kill him. Even the power is telling him to kill him. And what does Logan do? He shows mercy. And by showing this mercy, he wins the king's favor and tells the king very blatantly, Aes Sedai, my enemies, my allies, they should all be for me, because I will be the Dragon Reborn. And this wins the king's favor to be on his side. So all of this is a very, very good portrayal of similar things that are done by Rand in the books to portray how he's going to unite the lands beneath him. He can put people in extremely compromising situations and give them no choice, but at the same time, he is not a blatant out-and-out killer all the time attempting to, rule the world with an iron fist. He's attempting to gain people to his side, and Logan here is showing a good example of how Rand could do that to the world, as he did in the books, to try to win favor with people. And you notice that in the books that Rand starts to gain the favor of many of the countries when he goes to show them aid. This happens when he sends grain to Carian because they're having a famine from Tyr. This happens when he forces the Tyrans and the Illianers to work together. This happens with a lot of things, and it's him trying to force the nations into place. But what Logan does in this cold open is he exemplifies how a leader needs to work sometimes. You need to not take things personally, and you need to be able to unite people beneath your banner, because if you don't, then you'll be, taken out from the inside. So while all this is great, it also establishes how dominating of a presence Alvaro Morte is playing as Logan in the story. So, moving past that to my least impactful moments, at least when it comes to the overall story for each of the storylines. And in this one, it's Perrin and Egwene. This does not mean that it's bad. It just means that in terms of the overall scope, Perrin and Egwene have the least amount of importance overall to the narrative through line of this episode. So what goes on with Perrin and Egwene is that they are still with the traveling people. They're still with the Tuathawan. And what ends up happening is they just get to relax and breathe. But Perrin can't sleep, and Perrin is nervous, and Perrin is worried because he doesn't like how, it appears like loose all these people seem. And he even has convictions later where he's telling Isla, who now is apparently officially the leader of the Tuathawan, that, you know, not all of the people look like they're safe. Not all the people look like they're trustworthy. And Isla points out there are people that have come to them that are former murderers. There are people that have come to them that are going to, that, you know, have had shady pasts. And she says, the way of the leaf is for everybody. So it doesn't matter. And if I can make the world a better place now, then it'll be better for my future and for my generations and for everybody ahead of me. Which is a lot of, you know, it's similar to talks of climate change and other things like that, where we say, you know, maybe we're not making the world a better place for us now, but it has to be better for the future, for our children and for our generations in the future. So all this is very good, but it still tears at Perrin. But you can obviously see moments where Isla is bringing up, have you ever picked up a weapon and felt regret? Perrin does. And he has the entire, you know, flashback, you know, at least internally. You don't see it on screen, but you can reimagine him killing Layla again over and over and over in his head, and how it would have been had he not picked up the axe. But then he has to justify it to himself, saying, but if I hadn't picked up the axe, the monster would have killed us. And so we get this interesting moment where Perrin also goes to blacksmith. He does like a blacksmithing thing, and Isla points out, you find peace in the work. So you honor us with you fixing the wagon, because he's apparently fixing a wagon wheel. And the thing is that this is where we get into a little bit of spoiler territory, because also we get some information from Isla where she finds out that her daughter was killed by bandits, and it appears that they hunted her for sport, like they killed her for sport. And because of this, we get this moment where Isla has to prevent herself from picking up a broken spear and, you know, hunting down these men that killed her daughter. And she points out, what is a better, you know, revenge than peace to someone who wants harm. And it's that whole kill him with kindness type of thing. But this is a direct parallel to the memories that Rand receives when he goes through the glass columns and he sees the people, because, you know, spoilers, the Tuathawan are the Aiel, and the Aiel are, you know, dishonored because one of them did pick up a weapon and they did fight, you know, to have revenge. And so it's this parallel where you also get to see that the Tinkers are appreciative and they honor. They say things like, you honor us, to Perrin when he does blacksmithing, which, if anybody is familiar with the Wheel of Time meta and Wheel of Time universe and all that stuff, blacksmiths are one of the few people that the Aiel will not touch when it comes to Gaishine, when it comes to battle, when it comes to harm. They will not do anything to a blacksmith, because to them, blacksmiths, you know, they're not touchable. So maybe this is a callback to that, as the Tuathawan are the original religion that the Aiel followed. So we get more information about the Way of the Leaf, and Egwene even points out, like, it's kind of this obvious thing where she looks right at Aram and says, are you sure you guys aren't really at peace? Like, maybe you don't think that you found the song, maybe you don't think that you've found the thing that brings peace to everybody, but it looks like you guys kind of have already. So that was kind of an interesting bit of narrative. But again, we didn't get a whole lot of information, and all those things they were showing in the trailers where Perrin says, I don't trust these people, and things like that. They tried to drum up all this tension between the Tinkers and Egwene and Perrin. There wasn't really much of it. It just appeared like we got some exposition from Isla, and we also got some information from Aram. We also got a new bit of lore where apparently the Tinkers or the Tuathawan get a form of, like, I think it's called Rosh Hashanah. I'm not sure if it's the right word, where they get to go out into the world when they're 20 and find out whether or not they want to become Tinkers permanently, if they want to go and become a soldier or become a person in regular society that doesn't follow the Way of the Leaf. So again, all that stuff aside, we get, you know, that bit when it comes to the overall story of the Tinkers with Egwene and Perrin. So we get this nice through line, and we keep moving, because they even blatantly say that they're going to Tar Valon, which is kind of strange. Rumspringa, that's what it's called. I apologize. Yeah, it's not Rosh Hashanah, it's Rumspringa, and I believe it has to do with people that are Amish, where they get a chance for a week or like 2 weeks to live in modern day society, and they don't have to be Amish. and they elect whether or not they want to come back to be Amish or not. But either way, appreciation to my chat, because I'm live streaming this at the moment, so my chat is actually fixing my errors live as we go on. So anyway, moving on to the next second most important thing, which in my opinion is the story with Rand, Matt, and Tom. When it comes to that, we get information. We get to see Tom trying to defuse a situation. We get to see how Matt wants to defuse a situation. We get to see how Rand gets to defuse a situation. And eventually they come across this barn, and they end up being able to stay in the barn as long as they work for it for the night. We get to see that Matt is showing sickness from the dagger. So we can already tell that that dagger is pretty much spewing out the same stuff that was trying to kill them when they were in Shatter Logoth. So we know dagger bad, dagger not good. Matt does not need dagger, but Matt loved dagger. So anyway, he goes off, vomits a little bit, and the actual Mashadar seems to crawl back into him. We also get Tom and Rand getting to talk for a little while, and Tom explains that it looks like Matt is starting to show signs of channeling sickness, or being a male channeler. The madness is starting to infect him. And so Rand says that he's going to keep an eye on Matt. And there's this nice, cute little scene where a little girl, again, similar to the ages of Matt's sisters, shows up and brings him a loaf of bread and says that we appreciate what you guys did, and all you have to, and we appreciate it. And Matt has a little banter with her back and forth, and he offers her doll. She offers him her doll and says, Birgitta will keep you safe. Now, this is a nice nod. Again, when we come to the overall spoilers of the book, Birgitta is a well-known character. She is in the books much later on in the story, and she's also established as a hero early on in the books, in book 2, that she is a hero of the Horn, and the heroes of the Horn are supposed to come back to fight one day for the side of the light. So we get a little bit of that mythology. This little girl in a rural town, or in a rural farm, has a little doll that was probably handmade by her mother, where her dad was probably telling her stories of Birgitta. And Tom is also mentioning that he told the stories of the dragon and how men could channel to his nephew Owen. We get the entire backstory of Owen, which is fantastic, because we don't really tend to get that until much later on in the story overall, and it convinces Rand that he needs to possibly be keeping an eye out on Matt, because Matt's really acting strange and he doesn't like it. And Rand is willing to, be there for him as his friend, as like a brother to him. And so, as the night progresses, Rand goes into the dream world. We see Perrin smashing a hammer down on what appears to be Tinkers. It does zoom in on the ring. I haven't really looked at it fully, but it might have been Layla's ring. I'm not sure, but it's either a Tinker or it's Layla. It's one or the other. And we also see Matt walking with his hand like he did in the original trailer with blood on it. And we also see another flash of the man with embers, who we know to be Baalzamon from the books. And Rand wakes up, and Tom wakes him up, and they go to look because Matt's missing, and there's bodies everywhere, and Matt is just standing in the house. So again, Rand's terrified that Matt is possibly the one channeling and going mad. Maybe he just killed this entire family, and what do we do? And Matt points straight at the darkness and says, "I can see you," to a fade, very creepily, and it's really well done, because this also has two purposes. So one, either Matt went crazy and killed with the dagger, which, if it follows the book logic, it was not Matt that killed with the dagger, because when the dagger kills, the dagger apparently dissolves you like Mashadar does in Shatter Logoth. But it was possibly the Fade that killed the family, because the Fade went into the house not expecting them to be in the barn. And then Tom sacrifices himself to let the boys run away, and we see a zoom in of the doll for Birgitta. And so now again, Matt and Rand are alone, and Tom is apparently trying to fight the Fade. The Fade was very well put together, seemed to just kind of appear out of the shadows, and it was really creepy, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But it is kind of, we've seen that Tom is extremely skilled, but it just seems like Tom is, I won't say overpowered, but it just seems like him being able to best a Fade. It's not impossible to best a Fade, but we've never seen anybody actually fight one-on-one until this moment. So that was really cool. So now the big, juicy, meaty aspects of episode 4, which is them coming into the campment with the Aes Sedai, and that's Nynaeve, Moiraine, and Lan. We get a very quick cut of Moiraine pretty much getting healed almost immediately. Another thing that we notice is that Moiraine has a scar. I don't know if that's a nod to the never healing scar that Rand has, because the scar, it's like whenever you heal with the weaves, you're not supposed to ever have lasting damage. So that's interesting to see that there's actually a scar on Moiraine, it appears. We also notice that Nynaeve is still skeptical, but she's trying. It seems like she's kind of finding solace with Lan. She's finding a friend in this group of people. Like, she's super uncomfortable, and Lan appears to be the only one that she's willing to open up to. We get an interesting conversation between Liandrin and Nynaeve, where Liandrin, it's a blatant call out to the whole thing that nobody agrees on the pronunciation of the characters' names. And it's like Liandrin walks over and goes, Nynaeve, or whatever, and she goes, is that how you say it? I haven't heard your accent. And it's this whole thing, it's like a nod to the fact that nobody knows what the real accents sound like. It's also, how do we pronounce this? And it's kind of a jab at, people saying, oh, they said Moiraine, not Moiraine, or it's so silly and catty and funny, but at the same time it's coming from Liandrin, who's a character that we as book readers know we're not supposed to trust at all. She's evil. But past all that, we get the conversation where Liandrin pretty much says, blues are spies. And you start to get this, you get information as the episode progresses of what each of the Ajahs do, that the reds are the ones that hunt the men, and the greens are the battle, and the blue seem to be the spy network. We still haven't heard about yellows, grays, browns, or whites, but still, we get this information from them. And we also get the first reference to the word Amyrlin Seat, in terms of her authority from the Aes Sedai. We haven't heard it from the Aes Sedai. I believe we heard it we didn't even hear the word Amyrlin. We only heard that Tar Valon dispatched 8 sisters to deal with Logain in the south. That's what was stated. It was not stated Amyrlin Seat. So this is the first reference to Amyrlin Seat listed in the story, or in the TV show. And I believe that we also got a reference when it came to Tom earlier to the male half of the power, or when men use the power. So it might be the first inklings of Saidin Saidar, even though they still haven't said Saidin or Saidar. But we do get this interesting bit where Logain, it appears he appears to be he's shielded the entire time, but he doesn't seem like he's breaking a sweat, and he's not struggling at all, and they're having a hard time shielding him with 2 sisters at the same time. So that's really interesting. It just shows how strong he is. But you can tell that throughout the bit of the story, Moraine's nervous because in terms of the prophecy, it doesn't make any sense for Logain to be the Dragon Reborn because he's too old. And then past that, Moiraine also says that he isn't strong enough. There's no way he's strong enough to be the actual Dragon Reborn. Also, this was another thing that I did tend to miss. When you were talking about at the beginning with Rand, Matt, and Tom, you have Matt telling Rand that Dana said that she sees 5 of them in her dreams. And it's Matt blatantly saying, who's the 5th one? Because there's me, you, Egwene, Perrin, but who's number 5? And they don't know that Nynaeve has followed them. And also, they've been told by, Moiraine that they've been told that she said one of you, and that it was 20 years ago. So again, they know that the age range is there and all that. So maybe we'll get another character that's number 20. I mean, watch them start making Loyal, the Dragon Reborn, possibly, even though he's 80 or something. But anyway, so past all that, a few more bits of the story. So we get to see Nynaeve kind of finally loosening up. She's never loosened up throughout the entirety of the series, and she finally appears to be loosening up when she gets to take little jabs at Lan. And it really seems like to all the warders, Lan is not as important of a warder as he is made out in the books. Like, Lan is a very significant warder in the books, as he is the uncrowned king of Melkier. He is like the biggest deal whenever he walks in a room in the books. And in this, it's like you have like 6 warders just jabbing at him, saying like, oh yeah, he fell off his horse, oh yeah, he's slow, oh he's dropping his shoulder, oh he's doing this. Like, they're giving him crap over and over and over and over again, and it's really kind of humanizing to Lan as a character. But I don't know how I quite feel about it, because it really feels like they're downplaying him for his importance later on in the story. But we get to see Nynaeve unwinding a bit, and past that, Nynaeve is just around, but you get to see this kind of fundamental blossoming of a small, I'll take care of you type of relationship between him and Lan. Like, Lan has gained her respect, and she's gained Lan respect. And past that, there's also a scene where Nynaeve quotes a line in the old tongue, and Lan translates it for her, and that's very well done. But the thing is that it also adds another wrinkle to Nynaeve, because she has to have been old enough now to be able to retain a memory that old when she was a kid from her parents saying it before they were attacked and apparently attacked again. Another thing, like, wherever Nynaeve is from, her village was attacked, and she was stored in a cellar so that they would be able to protect her while the thing is. So it's like full-blown Mandalorian, vibes type of thing, where there's a big attack happening and they put this one person into an area, and then ended up getting protected by a possible other wisdom from another town, and that wisdom pulled them into the 2 rivers and raised them. So again, we're talking about a new origin for Nynaeve, which, again, to be fair, in the books we didn't really get an origin for Nynaeve. We only got, she was young, she was a wisdom, and boom. Like, she tracked Lan, cool, and her father used to teach her how to track in the woods, and that's the big mystery. But aside from all that, what ends up happening is the wards go off, telling him that there is the Dragonsworn coming after Logain. Logain easily just goes, oh, they here? Boom! And just explodes the shield, doesn't even care. He's weakened them long enough. And now all the other ones come in. Moiraine gets to finally talk with him and states a very blatant truth in the books, which is that the wheel does not have an agenda. The wheel just puts out the pattern. It's not the wheel telling Logain that he's the dragon. It's not that. It's Logain wanting to be the dragon. And it's this good back and forth where we get to see Logain be humanized for the first time by Moiraine. Like, she's blatantly stating, you can't be told by the wheel that you are the dragon. You have to fulfill the dragon's role, and that the dragon will be way more powerful than you. Like, you are not strong enough. It's just the end of it. But in this whole confrontation, they try to shield him again. Logain lashes out because he feels like his life is in danger. Again, you can't really tell if it's the madness or if it's him actually trying to escape fully, but he ends up killing, I believe her name's Karina, who is the one who appears to be the front loader and the front runner of the group of Aes Sedai sent out to dispatch Logain. And she ends up dying. Her warder, who has been the one that's been training with Lan and bantering with Nynaeve and everybody, and also using those gosh darn axes. I said at the beginning when I saw the trailer, I hate those axes. I hated them from the very beginning. Goes into the warder rage and attacks Logain. And Logain manages to channel through his weapons to detonate them like a shrapnel bomb. And all of everybody in the room, because everybody's trying to isolate Logain at this point, because that's what the Dragonsworn are trying to come after. Everybody in the room gets butchered by this shrapnel, except Nynaeve, essentially. She manages to save herself. Like, she's not affected by it. And what ends up happening is Lan gets knifed. And this is also semi-foreshadowed earlier when Tom brought up that Owen slit his throat. So Nynaeve, trying in desperation to protect Lan and save him because she doesn't know what to do, just explodes with the power. Now, there's a few takeaways from this, and with her explosion of power, she heals everybody in the room. Everybody's awestruck by this. But here's a few takeaways. The first thing is Logain appears to turn away because it's too much for him to look at Nynaeve. So this is implying one of two things. Either Nynaeve had no control over her weaves, and her glow was something that she channeled into existence for people that are not able to see the weaves of where Logan is in awe of how powerful it is. There's three things. So the first one is what I just said. The second one is men can see women channeling, which would give them a dramatically huge advantage in any contest. And the third option is this is a manifestation of Logan's initial thing that was why he laughed at Rand and Caemlyn in the books, which is that Rand was a Taviran, Logan could see Taviran, and that's why he looked right at Rand and laughed, was because he was seeing the nature of Nynaeve being Taviran, which would also explain why she wasn't attacked by the shrapnel, and it would also explain why she was able to be super powerful in this moment. And then immediately after all this happens, like that's my whole takeaway with that. But immediately after this all happens, Liandrin stands up, sees his opportunity based on adrenaline, and gentles Logain with the power of all the sisters, because that's the power of women, is that they can link their power. Again, they do it with hand motions, which is kind of weird, but whatever, hand motions are hand motions. Maybe that's how they're excusing how the White Cloaks are able to impact women who can channel, because it's not just a focus and something you can do subconsciously, it's something that you have to do motions for with your hands. But again, it's very interesting to see Nynaeve have this explosion of power. It's the first time that we get a clear instance of someone outside of the Aes Sedai organization or a male channeling the power, and it's a big, semi-cliffhanger to leave it on. It's like, what do we do now? So that's all impressive, but the thing is that there are ways that it could have been shot better. There are ways that you could have exemplified that, Nynaeve is upset and that she's angry and that she's hitting her block and breaking through it and all that. But you do get to see this connection between her and Lan, which is probably beneficial to the overall bits of the story because, as we know as book readers, they are endgame. So, moving past that, we have my favorite scene, and then I will go ahead and wrap up the video. Favorite scene of this book, or not this book, this episode, is Rand diffusing the situation. It's the first instance where we get to see Rand actually pulling from little bits that he gathered from Moraine, and he's also pulling stuff from Tom. Like, even Tom didn't know how to diffuse this situation because Tom's not used to being around rural farmers. And Rand is like, hey, I know that you pulled the bow back wrong. I know that if you wanted to kill us, you would have done it by now. And I know that if we wanted to kill you, I wouldn't have told you that. So, like, all this is a brilliant bit of writing in the sense where you get to see that Rand is adapting to every bit. Like, he's around Tom, so he's adapting more on gathering information and gleaning it. That he's a woodsman, so he's lived as a farmer in the woods, pulled back his bow. Again, it's a brilliant callback to episode 1 where he pulls back his bow and he's pulling back exactly how he described it. If you're ready to shoot an arrow, you're not knuckling your arrow string, you're actually pulling it with fingers so you can release. And again, this is all brilliantly put together, but I love seeing it because it's also a good cast in terms of like casting out a red herring, because it's also establishing that Rand seems more sane than Mat. And the thing is that if we go by the books, Rand is the Dragon Reborn, not Mat. Mat is getting corruption from the dagger, but Rand seems so sane that Tom is leaning towards Mat being the problem and not Rand, even though Rand is the one who blatantly channeled in the last episode and doesn't want to tell anybody because he can feel probably what he did and knows that he's the inevitable one that's the channeler in the group. But anyway, so that's my long, again, 30 minutes. Can't keep it under that, apparently. Long review and recap of episode 4 of The Wheel of Time. I do not know the title of episode 5, but I will have a prediction video out for it next week. And I will have that up, but I will not actually have a direct review and everything until 2 weeks after, because I will not be in home. I am actually going on vacation for next weekend, so I will have more information coming soon, but you can always catch me on Twitch if you're interested. I stream there every single day, Monday through Friday usually, between 11 and 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're interested, you can always reach out to me over there or on Discord or anywhere else in terms of social media. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope that everything goes well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.